But as, of course, as a mother, I worry. I guess all mothers do, no matter what. Here or the child is away.
The job of NATO's Supreme Allied Commander is currently held by U.S. Army General Wesley Clark. In fact, commanding NATO is a job that always goes to an American general. Why? And what former U.S. president was NATO's first Supreme Allied?
Shield. Presidential hopeful Dan Quayle on his campaign and the situation in Kosovo. Saturday, 5:30 Eastern on CNN.
Lucky day. It could be. Spirit Maverick, poker, bingo, craps, slots, and the like.
In rock music, the champions of air conditioning, Train Excel and Train Furnace in a grudge match. Sizzling summers and wild winters. Ouch! Train Excel is stomping the swelter out of summer, and summer is out of there. Train Furnace is up now, and winter is over.
Call First Call McCall, your train comfort specialist, and ask about our free 10-year parts and labor warranty on all Train XL products.
The winners! Call First Call McCall.
The Moneyline News Hour with Lou Dobbs, weeknight 6:30 Eastern on CNN.
The job of NATO's Supreme Allied Commander is currently held by U.S. Army General Wesley Clark. In fact, commanding NATO is a job that always goes to an American general. Why? And what former U.S. president was NATO's first Supreme Allied Commander? The answer: NATO's charter states that the position of Supreme Commander must go to an American, recognizing the United States' dominant role in world politics. U.S. Army General Dwight D. Eisenhower was named NATO's first Supreme Allied Commander in December 1950, following North Korea's invasion of South Korea. At the time, he was retired from the military and serving as president of Columbia University. He served for 1 year before running for president of the United States. Now, back to strike against Yugoslavia.
Thousands of ethnic Albanians continue fleeing Kosovo into neighboring Macedonia and Albania. The plight of these displaced people is of great concern to the NATO allies. Our senior White House correspondent Wolf Blitzer reports.
U.S. intelligence reports paint a devastating picture of displaced ethnic Albanians trapped inside Kosovo among the rubble. The reports say they face a severe lack of food and medicine. At least hundreds of the elderly are dying from starvation, others hiding in forests and hills, but without shelter and still vulnerable to Serb shells. The Clinton administration is ratcheting up the rhetoric, saying Yugoslavia's President Slobodan Milosevic is personally responsible.
These are, in a sense, Milosevic's hostages. He's refusing to allow the basic rules of the road to be implemented. That is, that international relief agencies get access to them so that they can help them provide the bare minimum.
U.S. officials say they're struggling to find ways to help the displaced Kosovars. Fearing casualties, they say it would be too dangerous for NATO to organize airdrops or to introduce ground troops to fight their way in with supplies. The most realistic option, they say, is to have third-party humanitarian groups, perhaps from Greece, go in to provide assistance.
We are extremely concerned about the fate of the 700,000 to 800,000 who remain in Kosovo and are exploring a variety of ways to meet these people so that they can be given life-sustaining support.
But U.S. officials fear it may be too late for many thousands of Kosovars. And international relief agencies say they won't go back into Kosovo until they know their people will be safe.
What we have heard, and we continue to hear from all the refugees, that people move out into the forest, hide, and some of them have been hiding for 3 weeks.
The Clinton administration, meanwhile, is being sharply criticized by a usual Democratic supporter.
Despite claims by NATO and Pentagon officials that they predicted everything, the United States and the rest of NATO were clearly unprepared for the debacle that has unfolded.
U.S. officials predict a severe food shortage even after a settlement. No spring planting is underway, meaning there'll be no harvest in the fall. Says one U.S. official, these people are going to need help for a long time to come. Wolf Blitzer, CNN, the White House.
Some of the refugees in Albania who need medical attention are surprised to find a countryman treating them. CNN's Eileen O'Connor tells us about this physician.
Dr. Ganjabala is making house calls on his fellow Kosovars these days, not in his hometown Pristina, but here in Albania.
I never could believe that it's going to be like this. There's so many refugees, and I thought it's going to be an epidemiological crisis and a lot of children.
Over 3 weeks after this crisis began, it isn't easy even finding where his countrymen are now located, scattered as they are throughout this mountainous country. Once there, the scenes are heart-wrenching. Babies and children sick with fever, diarrhea. A makeshift clinic is quickly established by Dr. Ganjabala and nurses from the International Medical Corps, who bring out a battery of donated drugs.
Every second of them have some upper respiratory disease. Perhaps there's a flu, there is a throat.
So you need drugs here?
I need drugs. They are missing the drugs.
Mothers, newborns, the elderly line up to see the doctor. Surprised but grateful, he speaks their dialect.
What's wrong with
Most of them from yesterday having diarrhea. So we are going to check everybody here
for diarrhea?
Yeah, for diarrhea. And we are going to see if there are others with diarrhea.
A major part of the healing process for people here is just knowing someone is there, caring with a soothing word and a smile.
Dr. Zambali agrees with nearly every other doctor dealing with this crisis that it is the psychological trauma that these people have suffered that is the most difficult to treat, yet poses the biggest problem for the future.
As he makes his rounds, he says it isn't their diseases, their living conditions, but their tales of horror that will haunt him.
2 mothers that I saw there, they have been crying and screaming. They left their children. I think after he make a deliver of baby, she got no milk, everybody was running, and up there somewhere they left the children.
Those wounds, he says, he cannot heal. So Dr. Ganjabala does what he can, one patient at a time. Eileen O'Connor, CNN, Elbasan, Albania.
When we return, preparing NATO troops for war and peace. But first, CNN's Matthew Chance shares his observations of life in the refugee camps in today's War Journal.
The gift of play. A simple gesture to raise spirits among these beleaguered Kosovars. NATO's last donation before stepping out of its humanitarian role here. 3,000 balls in all, nearly 20,000 players. After all their hardship and desperation, the touch of a ball, the escape into a game, has almost irresistible appeal. And for a few moments, these Kosovars are no longer refugees, but people with normal lives once again.
Oh, come on, you can't stay another day?
I wish I could. I'm just so crazed with the new job. I don't have time to figure out my finances.
We went through the same thing when we got this house. And with the new baby coming, we needed help.
So what'd you guys do?
Called T. Rowe Price.
Really?
Yeah, it was great. It really helped simplify things. Give him a call.
Okay, I will.
What a big brother's for, right? Come on, get out of there, you.
Bye.
Bye.
T. Rowe Price, helping people invest with confidence for over 60 years. You're planning for the future, looking out for your family and your business. You need strength, knowledge, and experience on your side. That's Pacific Life, helping you protect your family and plan a secure retirement. Our family of companies provides insurance and investments that help you reach your financial goals. Use the power of the Pacific. Pacific Life.
This doesn't sound good for the rainforest. Or does it? In Brazil, the Tropical Forest Foundation has introduced low-impact logging. By carefully removing older, unproductive trees, they're providing air, light, and space for the younger trees below, thus assuring the presence of a rainforest for generations to come. We're proud to be part of the project because, as we hope you've noticed, we like to encourage growth.
He flew to 17 cities in 3 weeks. Flew to the top of the ladder. Flew his whole family to Hawaii for free. Who's he sleeping with? Weston. Now part of the new Starwood Preferred Guest program. Dial 1-877-STARWOOD. Sleeping with us has its rewards.
Unisys people just can't stop working on their clients' problems, even when it looks like they're not working at all.
That's it. Excuse me, but some of us are trying to work.
When it comes to solving problems through information services and technology, at Unisys, we eat, sleep, and drink this stuff.
President Gerald Ford, Jay Leno, President Bill Clinton, Mike Wallace, President George Bush, Jerry Seinfeld, Michael Jordan, Tom Cruise, George Clooney, Queen Noor, Tom Hanks, Dan Rather, Hillary Clinton, Celine Dion, Bette Midler.
No wonder he's #1 in primetime talk. Great guests, great talk.
President Jimmy Carter, Barbara Walters,
Larry King Live. Weeknights on CNN.
German officials have launched a peace initiative calling for a one-day suspension of the airstrikes if Yugoslavia begins withdrawing troops from Kosovo. While diplomatic efforts continue, NATO troops are pouring into the region. The vast majority are there on humanitarian missions or for air support, but the numbers are seen by some as a potential ground force. CNN World Affairs correspondent Ralph Begleiter reports.
The U.S. and its NATO allies will soon have in place a military force capable on short notice of moving into Kosovo to return refugees to their homes and keep the peace. The allies are also intensifying diplomatic efforts, including subtle but important shifts in Western demands designed to make an agreement more likely. On the military side, the Allies are pouring more aircraft, up to 1,000, into the Balkans. NATO has a force of almost 12,000 troops on the ground in Macedonia and another 1,700 in Albania. More troops are just over the horizon in Greece, Italy, and Germany. If necessary, NATO could call upon another 20,000 international troops still deployed next door in Bosnia.
Every morning, as President Milosevic wakes up and realizes that in the last 24 hours he has become weaker, he also sees that NATO is becoming stronger.
Most of the troops in the Balkans are equipped and armed for humanitarian missions, not combat ones. But combat planes and helicopters are on their way now. After 3 weeks of NATO bombing, the Allies are putting diplomacy into high gear again. In a gesture to the Russians, the U.S. is easing its insistence on NATO-led peacekeepers. This is how Secretary of State Madeleine Albright's spokesman put it Monday.
The international security force we're pursuing remains a NATO-led force.
Before Albright met her Russian counterpart, NATO-led had become NATO core.
NATO has to have a core leadership role in it. And
Albright now describes the force without any NATO reference.
An international security presence must be permitted.
Albright also now endorses Russia's demand for the United Nations to approve the next steps. UN Secretary General Kofi Annan met with NATO's Secretary General and with European Union leaders to discuss a German proposal for ending the bombing.
Wir haben keinen Resolutionsentwurf.
Chancellor Gerhard Schröder suggests an interim government for Kosovo under the auspices of the European Union. Some key pieces of a settlement are not in place yet.
Still at issue is who blinks first. Does NATO stop bombing, followed by withdrawal of Serb forces from Kosovo? Or do the Serbs move first? And if there's a UN mandate for the Allies to move in behind the Serbs, who's in charge of that force? And will the Russians join it? Ralph Begleiter, CNN, Washington.
And when we return, before Milosevic, one man held Yugoslavia's ethnic conflicts in check for 35 years. Marshal Tito. How he did it. But first, a check of editorial opinion.
When your business can't depend on its internet service. But you can depend on UUNet, an MCI WorldCom company, guaranteeing 100% service, ensuring that your critical data gets there quickly and reliably. There are other choices. Then there's UUNet, the world's internet communications company.
Flexible metal frame. Flex-On by Marchon.
When you want to stand out, nothing demands attention like posted flags. Posted flags help you sort, file, organize, circulate, edit, document, and highlight what's important. Stand out with posted flags.
Try to explain to your best buddy that he can't come inside because you can't seem to get rid of his fleas. Well?
Now, the CNN website's ranked #1 on the World Wide Web, with more users than any other general news site on the net. For the latest breaking news, business, sports, weather, and more, get it all at CNN.com.
For additional coverage of the crisis in Kosovo, go to CNN Interactive's in-depth site at cnn.com/Kosovo. Now, back to strike against Yugoslavia.
Serb conflicts with ethnic Albanians did not start with Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic, nor did Serb clashes with the Croats in Bosnia. But these ethnic conflicts were somehow held in check during the 35 years Yugoslavia was led by Marshal Tito. Judy Woodruff looks at his reign and his legacy.
Marshal Josip Broz Tito is known as the chief architect of the Second Yugoslavia, a socialist federation that lasted from World War II until 1991. Yugoslavia, under Tito's rule, was as authoritarian as it was centralized. At the same time, it was one of the most independent states within the communist world.
Tito's source of legitimacy within Yugoslavia itself was the fact that he had essentially liberated the country from Nazi occupation. That made him a much more popular leader internally than any other leader within the communist world.
Tito openly defied Stalin, the only communist leader in Eastern Europe to do so, and managed to keep his country out from under the Iron Curtain.
Makes Yugoslavia's armed forces perhaps the finest in the Balkans.
The key distinction between Yugoslavia and many of the other countries that became communist after the Second World War was that within Yugoslavia, Tito succeeded and the communists succeeded because they essentially won the war without the help of the Red Army, without the help of the Soviets.
In 1948, Moscow expelled Yugoslavia from a communist alliance, Cominform, for having placed itself outside the family of the fraternal communist parties.
Defying Stalin at that time took a lot of courage, and he had it.
Rejected by the East, Tito turned to the West. Yugoslavia began to receive $150 million in aid from the United States.
Marshal Tito, who has defied the Kremlin, reviews the military might that has been built up with Western aid.
Following the death of Stalin in 1953, Tito formed new relations with the Soviet Union.
He was a brilliant politician, and he knew how to use both blocs to his advantage. He knew how far he can go with the Soviet Union without losing independence. He knew how far he could antagonize the United States without losing its support.
In 1955, Nikita Khrushchev made a dramatic visit to Belgrade to try and bury the hatchet with Tito. Tito then went to Moscow for a 3-week state visit. Nothing could have been more symbolic of Tito's new attitude toward the Soviet Union.
From that point on, he is going to take a position of neutrality between the two blocs and seek his influence, use both blocs to the advantage of his rule and of Yugoslavia, and seek his influence in the Third World.
In 1960, world leaders assembled in New York City for a United Nations conference. Tito was there to recruit for what became a movement of non-aligned nations.
At Yugoslav headquarters, Egypt's President Nasser talks with neutralist Marshal Tito. They share the goal of a third force alliance, weighing the balance between the Soviet and the West.
In 1974, Marshal Tito rewrote the Constitution, giving Yugoslav republics more autonomy, including their own central banks and governments, while introducing a rotating presidency.
This is something that is unheard of, impossible to preserve, and it was preserved only so long as Tito was alive because he was indispensable. He was not to be rotated.
Tito understood that it was a highly fragile system that he ruled. And on the one hand, he wanted to give the provinces the maximum autonomy to try to buy off elites within the republics and provinces, and on the other hand, to try to keep them together through this very authoritarian communist party.
In 1980, Tito died, leaving behind a country unsure of its future.
Tito himself, by the time that he died, had created a system that had an ideology that was defunct, an economic system that was no longer functioning, and a whole series of rivalries within the Communist Party and within the republics themselves.
This would be his legacy, planting the seeds of turmoil that still flourish in the former Yugoslavia today. Judy Woodruff, CNN, Washington.
Up next in our special report, Strike Against Yugoslavia, relying on the generosity of others, from clothing to cash. A look at efforts designed to bring relief to Kosovo refugees.
Michael? Coming! Hi.
Oh, made a little extra.
I guess you heard Barbara was away.
Visiting Katie at college.
Yep.
First year, huh? How's that?
Made the dean's list.
Great. I know our Josh is only in 3rd grade, but I don't know how you guys did it. Put him through school and all?
We invested with T. Rowe Price.
Really?
Yeah, and they helped us figure out how much to put away. They've got this college planning kit.
On my way to my mom's anyway.
Hey, thanks.
T. Rowe Price, helping people invest with confidence for over 60 years.
When you start a pro hockey team in North Carolina, there are several things you'll find useful. Some more useful than others. Nothing else matters unless you have what you need most. That's why 4 out of 5 of the world's largest companies rely on CompuWare. What do you need most? CompuWare, people and software for business applications.
We gave it exhilarating performance and the ultimate in luxury. Because we believe a great luxury car should do more than just take people where they want to go. It should bring them to their feet. The new RL from Acura.
Strength, knowledge, and experience. That's Pacific Life. For more than 130 years, Pacific Life has provided insurance and investments that protect families and help build assets. Our family of companies has helped thousands of businesses and millions of individuals reach their financial goals. Use the power of the Pacific. Pacific Life.
At Unisys, we don't stop thinking about a client's problem until it's solved. Even now, this guy is developing a system that'll dramatically increase Delta Airlines' cargo efficiency.
Are you going to putt or just admire the green?
Solving problems this way isn't unusual for us.
I've got it.
In fact, it's par for the course. Unisys, we eat, sleep, and drink this stuff.
Having heard about the hundreds of thousands of Kosovo refugees, people across Europe are reaching out to help. But relief agencies say
pushed out of Kosovo. Donations, but people are now cleaning out their closets and offering canned food. Deal with. Some charities in Britain have collected tons of blankets, jackets, and shirts, but now find they are unable to deliver it to the refugees. The sad truth is that often in situations like this, the donated clothing are turned into rags.
And a lot of that is simply put into a warehouse.
He's due. The Boy Scouts have a warehouse of clothing here in London, and British Airways has promised to deliver it to the refugees. Children's Aid Direct in Britain is putting together 5,000 hygiene kits with soap, toothpaste, toothbrush, and a washcloth. The charity has already sent hundreds of tons of food and clothing into Albania. But money is still what is needed most. The United States sent plane loads of rations to Albania and Macedonia.
The plastic-wrapped meals are ideal for feeding refugees. Individual donations of canned food can be a problem.
The cost of giving us a tin of corned beef, give it to the Red Cross or any agency as cash, and we can help 3 or 4 times as many people.
Experts say the needs will only increase. The conflict could last weeks or months, and feeding and sheltering those forced out of Kosovo will require some long-term solutions.
Relief agencies are now planning how to deal with the long term once the immediate crisis passes. In the months to come, the refugees will require more than 3 meals a day and a canvas roof over the family. The deportees will need jobs where there were none before they arrived. Tom Mintier, CNN, London.
And that concludes our special report. I'm Bernard Shaw in Washington. Thanks very much for joining us. Please be sure to stay with CNN for the very latest on the strike against Yugoslavia.
Now there's more news in the morning with Carol Lynn and Leon Harris on Early Edition, weekdays 7 Eastern on CNN.